Here we go.
Game on, where progressives fear us and rhinos tremble. Welcome to the political jungle. I'm JD.
This is Stacey. No one is safe. No one is spared.
Lock up the children.
And the old folk.
Welcome to the world of libertative conservatarians.
Okay, terrific.
Welcome to JD and Stacey with guest host speakers. Stacey, can you hear me?
I can hear you. I heard no intro and no commercials.
You didn't? Oh my gosh.
No, ma'am.
Well, guess what? We're here.
Okay, terrific.
We were on the air too. I'm sorry. And guest producer, newbie. Y'all do your. I'm out. Y'all do your thing.
Well, everybody, I guess you all got to hear Joe the Bullet Magnet. Beaker and I missed that very, 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 wonderful little joke that we got going there. And anyway, this evening, welcome to Game On for September 15th, 2015. JD, as you all know, is in California, and Slickery Trigger is heading up the recon team. So if we lose him, Slick is actually going out to find him and take him back. And,
nice.
And lovely Tina is actually holding the bail money because she's really the only adult that listens to us. So, we got to have the adults holding the cash. Anyway, give me an idea that you guys can hear me in the chat room, please, because I'm getting nothing here. Anyway, as you heard earlier this evening, because JD is in California hanging out with our good friend of the show, Michael Loftus, we have Beaker O'Donovan sitting in the guest chair. Welcome, Beaker.
Hello, Clarice.
Do you like liver?
I do. What's some fun? Nah. I'm drinking a Full Moon Rye IPA instead of a nice whatever that.
Oh.
I like beer.
We're having some echo, I'm being told. So, yeah, I know. I'm not getting any feedback through my earmuff. So, guys, just give us a second.
I'm going to mute me and see if that does it.
Mute you, but then we can't hear you.
I know, and my apologies because it sounds good coming through my phone. And that's all I got to go on. So let me see if I can pull something down. Keep talking.
When I was muted, were we still echoing?
Not sure. I can't hear me back through your speakers, though, so we should be okay. All right. Well, with that, Beaker, how are you doing today?
I am lovely. And yourself?
I'm freaking fabulous. Social media today has been a riot, and one of the reasons it has been such a riot is simply because we're heading into debate number 2. So,
Electric Boogaloo.
Electric Boogaloo of debate number 2, which we're going to get to in the second section because
I don't have Electric Boogaloo.
We don't have Electric Boogaloo.
Yeah.
It's cool. But we will get into the debate upcoming in the second section and talk a little bit about that, as well as teach you guys all about the debate night drinking game, which we have developed because if it's going to be a circus anyway, we might as well have fun. And first segment, we're going to talk about Pope Francis, the real pontiff, even though I have the polyphone pontiff sitting here with me, coming to the United States and what's going to be inherent in that visit, and maybe some of what his messaging is, and some of what might want to make conservatives bang their head against a wall. And then finally, in the last segment, Will Smith has kind of lost his mind. He's given a ton of money to Louis Farrakhan for some fun little protests that are going to go on here shortly. So little disappointed, but kind of an interesting link there, I guess. So, Beaker, the polyphone pontiff, the real pontiff is coming.
The pontiff is coming. The pontiff is coming. Yeah. I really, really wish the Vicar of Christ would stick to matters of faith and leave the economics and environmental science to non-Marxists, maybe.
Maybe that would be awesome. But, you know, it seems like this is the most political pontiff in my lifetime. I realized back in the Middle Ages and some other points in history, they were quite political and messing with kings and dynasties and things like that. But, you know, in my lifetime, the Pope has been a spiritual leader, not a political leader. Pope Francis is coming to the U.S. He is a Latin American. He is actually the first Pope from the New World. He's from Argentina, led the diocese in Buenos Aires. So his perspective, I guess, on the papacy is a little bit different, and it comes much more from a Latin American perspective of what is America. This is also his first visit ever to America, Beaker. He's never been here.
That, yeah, I can't say that makes me sad. I can't say it makes me sad. I don't like the term Reformed Catholic because there's nothing to reform from, but I that's what I grew up in. I have a lot of respect for the Catholic Church. There are times I still miss it. I think there's something that speaks to that tribal part of us where tradition and ritual, there's that part of us that as human beings, I think a lot of us have moved away from, and it's ingrained in us. And Catholicism for me kind of holds that, where it's that just solid ritual you don't really get in life anymore.
Yeah, I'm Catholic light. I'm Episcopal.
And I'm kind of a non-denominational guy at this point, but I have a lot of, in my heart still there. My parents are very strong Catholics, and it causes me pain, and I was ribbing my brother, who's still is a practicing Catholic, that it's much easier not to be a Catholic right now with the Pope, and he groaned, but
he groaned.
Yeah, and then we drank, but I think it's very difficult for a lot of people who are Catholic and not Marxist having problems right now.
Well, I mean, having been raised Catholic, right, you're raised with the whole infallibility. So if this is what the man is preaching, how do you reconcile your faith with what is being said? Because if you really take a look at it, in the United States, the vast majority of folks that hold his beliefs very, very close are a lot of the atheists and progressive leftists we see on Twitter. And in terms of social justice, climate change, immigration. I mean, if you look at the positions he's taking as the leader of the Catholic Church, they don't align with who would be typically sitting in the diocese or in the church itself.
No, it's interesting. He's not making decisions on the faith, so he's not. I don't think technically he winds up being infallible, and I'm not that's my expertise certainly doesn't lie in that area, but I believe that he has to be speaking on matters specifically dealing with the church for the old infallibility clause to kick in, which I always thought was interesting. But what I find fascinating is he's going after, especially when he's talking about unfettered capitalism, which is funny because I've certainly never seen unfettered capitalism in my lifetime. We have a lot of crony capitalism, but I certainly call that unfettered capitalism. But he winds up going after the very people that are donating large sums of money to the church. So I don't see how that's going to end well.
Neither do I. But this will actually be, as I said, his first trip to the U.S. and the first speech by a pope to Congress. According to all intelligence we've gathered at this point from our secret sources, his focus is going to be on immigration. So at this point, he's kind of wading into presidential politics and slamming into some things going on in here in the U.S. in 16. He actually was originally going to fly in from Mexico, and they decided that was too many security concerns. Gee, I can't imagine that at all. As well as maybe too much of a political statement. He's actually meeting with immigrants in Harlem and Philadelphia, and he will only speak English in 3 speeches. The rest will be done in Spanish, which kind of cuts to the quick in one of the presidential feuds that's going on, which is Donald Trump's criticism of Jeb Bush and Marco Rubio for speaking Spanish in certain venues. So kind of wondering how Mr. I love God and the Bible Trump, whether he's going to start tweeting about the Pope or not. Yeah, I can't wait to see the tweets about the Pope. Come on, this is going to be good.
Didn't Trump refer to a communion wafer as that cracker?
A cracker, yeah.
Both wrong and racist, but was he? I think he was referring to the person, the white priest who was giving him communion, and he was calling him the cracker.
I don't know, but any other conservative Republican candidate who came out with that at the Faith and Freedom Festival would have been bashed. But as you take a look at it, I mean, he really is coming into what is a huge debate going on in our own political sphere right now. And I kind of wonder how that's really going to play. You have two houses of Congress, both hold majorities that are Republican. He's speaking a lot about the migrant and refugee crisis. I mean, this is a pope, when you take a look at it, even if you don't agree with what he says, he really does walk his talk. He does not spend time in large cities and with wealthy people and big political figures. He spends a lot of time visiting with migrants, visiting with the poor, visiting with the homeless. I mean, even when he goes to speak to Congress, he's not having lunch with the legislatures. He's going to have lunch with some homeless folks and some immigrants at the Catholic Charities site in D.C. So, I mean, even if you're going to criticize him, I guess at least if he's going to be having this kind of rhetoric coming out of his mouth, he very much lives the mission, if you will.
There is a lot to like
terrific.
Pope Francis. I mean, he shuns and many cases shuns the wealth and the pomp of the office. He calls himself the Bishop of Rome. He's washing feet. You're right. He's meeting with the people that the church is supposed to be focused on helping, and that is fantastic. I just wish he would stick to that and stop talking about economics, where he's fundamentally confused. He's talking about unfettered capitalism, and it has really nothing to do with capitalism, because he's getting into, well, it's the greed of people. Greed is not inherent to capitalism. You can be a greedy socialist. I'm sure that there are people who that was pretty evident in the old Soviet Russia days. Mm-hmm. The ruling class had all the good stuff, and it's not like the people that, the average Joe didn't want, or Ivan didn't want it. They just didn't have access to it. So that does nothing to combat greed. And unfortunately, I just think he's fundamentally mistaking what the problem is and going after capitalism. And I think that's it's in his roots. And a much smarter, by orders of magnitude, man than me, Judge Napolitano has decimated his arguments and his statements on capitalism and going into freedom of speech and lots of other issues. But I just wish he would stick to doing the things that he does so exceptionally well, but he's not.
Well, and it's always interesting to me, especially, I guess, when I read some of this about the Latin American perspective of the U.S., having worked in South America and with folks from South America, I will say that they are generally of a much more collective and I don't mean collective in the Marxist frame, but it is a more collective and community-based way of thinking. Okay, so it is more about the health of your community. For example, when we had to do layoffs and things in Brazil, the concern was about for the community, not necessarily just the business considerations, in a much different way than it is in the U.S. Coming with that more Latin American perspective, I mean, I just want to say, go to Venezuela. They can't get toilet paper. I mean, there's a limit. There's a limit to what you go to Greece. That worked out really well. There's a limit to what you can do in society to make everyone prosperous, I guess is the best way to put it. And, life ain't fair and things ain't always equal is the other message. But he seems to put a lot on the United States in terms of the success we've had as a country and what our debt to the rest of the world is.
And this message, and it's certainly not only his, it's a fairly common one, but are we looking to equalize, if that's the goal of making everybody equal, even if that is your goal, are you doing that by knocking down the top and filling it in at the bottom, or building everybody up?
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's definitely going to be interesting. I'll be interested to hear Congress's reaction. It does appear that we will have wall-to-wall coverage, and it just might be, Beaker, that Pope Francis is the only thing that can knock Donald Trump out of the headlines.
I take it.
I'll take a political pontiff over the come-over any day of the week. Anyway, guys, we're getting ready to go to a break here, and when we come back, it's fight night on a Wednesday. What do we have to look forward to in the GOP debates? We'll be back in about 2.5 minutes.
Hey everybody, this is Jason, host of According to Me. I'd like to invite you to check out my show. It's a 2-hour show that lasts 60 minutes in... listen, I hate to interrupt, but one thing I can do is read off a script. Just say, let me be clear a lot. It works. President Obama, I can handle this. It's a radio promo. I'm not green. I've done this before. Did someone say green? Now, Al Gore is here. Listen, I'm just trying to record a radio promo. Do you mind? Now, do you say good things about me on the show? No, not at all. But if it makes you feel any better, I rip on Republicans just as much. The AM radio frequencies give off very high levels of radiation. Look, my show is on the internet, which you invented. Can I just do my promo? I got a pen. I can veto that, I know you got a pen. It's not a law. It's a radio promo. Listen, just listen to my show. Barack Obama and Al Gore hate it, so you're going to love it. Here's an executive order. Don't listen to his show. He doesn't like me. He's racist. And he doesn't recycle either. That's it. I'm done. It's According to Me, Wednesdays, 10 p.m. Eastern, right here on K98 Talk.
Tune in to America Off the Rails with Rowdy Rick Robinson every Saturday at 7:30 a.m. Central Daylight Time on iHeartRadio, K98Talk.com, and Blog Talk Radio. Rick, a conservative who's not afraid to say what's on his mind, tackles the issues that threaten to derail our nation. So join him every Saturday morning at 7:30 to get your daily dose of the truth as he tries to keep America from coming off the rails.
I hear you laughing, Stacey.
That's because that is actually for our third segment, but how do you feel about diving into it now, Beak?
Might as well.
I can't help it.
That kind of lead in. God, that's a great lead in.
Apparently, JD needs to send somebody the bumpers. Anyway, JD's not here. We blame it all on him. All of it.
Okay, terrific.
It's the host monkey.
Huh?
It's the host monkey.
I said the host monkey.
The host monkey. He sent it to Lou's house. Anyway, so our favorite folks, Black Lives Matter, JD, and they got, or Beaker. Wow, I'm blaming JD and smacking Beaker around. Black Lives Matter got back into the headlines this week. We actually had another police officer murdered, Deputy Joseph Ponder, a 31-year-old naval vet who actually joined the force on January 15th of this year. It appears by initial investigation, from what I've seen, that this ended up being someone who was pulled over on the side of the road, decided to take off. When the deputy pursued him, at some point he actually slammed on his brakes, forcing a collision. Not the deputy, but the person who was being pursued, forcing a collision. And when the cars were stopped, he got out and shot the Deputy Ponder several times.
And that was after the deputy actually was trying to help him. Initially, when he was pulled over, there was something about his license being expired. He was trying to get him set up at a local hotel, I believe. And then the guy just took off.
Well,
while we're talking, but
what has been found out about this individual, and I will not say his name because I will not ever say the name of any cop killer as long as I am doing radio. I think they deserve no praise. But he was killed in a standoff when he very intelligently refused to drop his gun, which is always, really smart. And basically, when they went to look into this individual's background and other things, what they found was that he was a Black Lives Matter protester, was attended the funeral of Mike Brown, and was actually part and parcel of a lot of the protests there. And, when we take a look at that movement and the narrative that they're trying to purport and what they're trying to tell everybody they're really all about, they always, take themselves very seriously as a peaceful movement. We've seen an uptick in the murder of police officers. I could sit here and, from my own brain, which isn't always working as it should, I could think of about 15 or 16 incidents, maybe since June, where I've heard of a cop literally being murdered on the job. These cops are not being killed per se in the line of duty. There is nothing about pulling someone over for a traffic stop that should be inherently dangerous to you. There's nothing about pulling your patrol car over and pumping gas that should be inherently dangerous to you just because you're wearing a uniform. And I'm sorry, the anti-cop narrative that comes out of these protesters time and time again, a couple weeks before, I believe it was on August 29th, Black Lives Matter, people who go under that banner, do the hands up, don't shoot, wear the T-shirts, are screaming pigs in a blanket, fry them like bacon. I don't even understand, number one, Beaker. These are the big questions I have. How can the leaders of that movement not be denouncing this stuff and
I don't think they denounce it.
How can they put themselves out there as a peaceful movement when this stuff is going on and they're not denouncing it? And why, in God's name, is the GOP and the Democratic Party taking these people seriously?
They're not. They will never distance themselves because they're not going to get pressed on it. We both know if somebody even thought once in their life about going to a Tea Party event and they put it somewhere on social media that they won't like the Tea Party and then they did something horrific, that the Tea Party would be painted as this violent extremist organization with hateful rhetoric. I mean, you were, I can't remember.
We don't even have that happen, and DHS says cops say right-wing extremists are the scariest people in the world.
But it's not a media-driven event. Nobody cares. I shouldn't say cares, but the media does not care to push that. They're not going to connect the dots because they don't want to be one, they have a narrative to push, and two, if they make the assertion, then they're going to be racist.
Well, of course.
And they're not going to, homie, don't play that.
Well, and there is one journalist, and despite the publication that he works for, that I do have to give a huge shout out to, and that is Brandon Darby. We talked about him last time we discussed Black Lives Matter situation. I will talk about him again. He has said publicly, and I give him a ton of credit for this, that he is 100% committed to showing the other side of the Black Lives Matter movement, and that side that the media ignores. So, when we had the FYF 9/11 event where supposedly all these morons were going to jump down to Stone Mountain and stand the faces off the memorial there and climb the pole and take the Confederate flags down. That whole event didn't even make the local news. So I don't think there was as much agita behind it as you would have thought looking at social media. I think it was two guys in their mother's basement, I don't know, drinking a Colt 40 and eating pork rinds or something. But, at the end of the day, at some point, and this is what really scares me, this is going to boil over. It's absolutely going to boil over. And the anti-cop rhetoric that keeps going on, I don't understand how we roll back from that, I guess is the best way to put it. How do we extricate ourselves from this entire, war on police, Black Lives Matter? I mean, how do we take that movement and actually have a constructive conversation when they keep picking the wrong martyrs?
You ain't kidding. I mean, if there's... Police are like anybody else. There are going to be scumbags and jackasses in every profession out there. There's from doctors to nurses to lawyers to plumbers to I don't care who they are. There's a subsect that just sucks. And when you have that subsect in a position of power, then it's going to suck more because they have power and authority. So there's that, and I don't think anybody denies that there are some people out there who are just that they shouldn't have a badge, and that 99.9% of those of everybody else in the force wishes those guys didn't have badges, but they do.
Well, so, and I don't know that police officers always do themselves a bunch of huge favors by not necessarily calling those folks out, but I think again, and you see some of this in the medical profession. If you call that person out, even if their behavior is egregious, you could make one mistake and be called out because nobody's infallible. But when you're seeing cops literally being executed, that has nothing to do with being a good cop or a bad cop. That has to do with being targeted.
And it drives me nuts. And as much as I like Reason Magazine on a lot of things, they keep on running this over and over. There is no war on cops. There is no war on cops because they're looking at the absolute number of fatalities for police officers in any given year, and how that's not there's no substantive change over the last couple of years or over the decades. It's less, but never can I remember in my lifetime. There's one thing when you're dying in the line of duty, and there's one time, and that's distinctly different than being executed at a frickin' gas station or
being forced to rear-end somebody and shot. Yeah,
there's a rhetoric out there that just says cops are bad, so people are being oppressed, kill the cops.
Yeah, no, I agree. Reason Magazine is great on a lot of stuff. They're about the best out there on 1A. They're about the best out there on 2A. But when it comes to this, I think their assessment is too simplistic, I guess I would say. Not necessarily how many cops are killed, but how are they being killed is hugely important because of the targeting that's going on. But as long as we're talking about that rhetoric and hate mongers and people who stir the pot with that whole message, why don't we talk about Lewis?
Farrakhan!
Nation of Islam. Okay, you know you're screwed up when the Church of Scientology is going to take your license to talk about them away. Okay? Louis Farrakhan is being kicked out of the Church of Scientology. Did I say that loud enough? All right. You cannot be any crazier. You just can't. So Louis Farrakhan grabbing on this whole narrative, because has anybody seen Al Sharpton or Jesse Jackson in the last couple weeks? Months? I haven't seen Jesse Jackson since Mike Brown's funeral. In the media
Al Gore's just
anywhere.
collecting money. He's just
And I haven't seen Al Sharpton anywhere. Does he still have his show on MSNBC?
It's been moved to Sundays
At 3 o'clock in the morning
Okay,
or
terrific.
something? Yeah. No. But, I mean, you haven't seen either one of those guys in a visible way since Baltimore. The Baltimore riots were the last time I saw Al Sharpton in the news. In any way, shape, or form speaking on behalf of the civil rights movement.
He looks like a Pez dispenser.
I think he looks like a drowned cat. But so you have taken two consistent and maybe not so great voices, okay? Al Sharpton has done his share of pot stirring over the years, and so has Jesse Jackson. You've taken them out of the public sphere, and literally now the representative of this movement that's been in the news, by my count, for at least the last month, is Louis Farrakhan, who I think is one of the most dangerous individuals in the world. I mean, DeRay McKesson is bad because he knows how to manipulate people and how to wrap them around a message. Louis Farrakhan is just downright scary.
He has a lot of influence, and it would be difficult to spin it to say that that he has a positive message of any kind. I mean, I can't see it. I don't know how you spin it to say that it is.
But people eat it up. You know, and what's scarier to me, because somebody showed up in my social media feed who hadn't been around for a while, and if you're not familiar with him, go and look him up. He was basically kicked out of the Black Lives Matter movement when he was arrested several times around the Ferguson riots, a guy named Bassem Masri. He's from Ferguson, Missouri. He's actually of Palestinian descent, and he did and really pushed that whole meme of the links between Islam and the black community within the U.S. in terms of oppression. So he came at it as a Palestinian, saying, as a Palestinian in Gaza, I'm treated the same way that blacks are in the U.S. Now, that's not even remotely true. I'm not sure Bassem has ever been to Gaza, but, you know, it's just not. But he tried to marry that whole Black Lives Matter Islamic meme back in the you know, in the time right after the Ferguson riots, and now you have a leader who has always called himself leader of the Nation of Islam and is now embracing the Black Lives Matter movement. That's terrifying.
Well, he's some of the rhetoric disturbing to say the least, but what was a couple weeks ago about 1,000 volunteers to do what exactly?
10,000 volunteers to kill white people. I mean, this speech could not have been any more explicit, Beaker, and when I went to find it, it's actually been removed from YouTube. You know how many things get removed from YouTube? Not a lot. I've had 2 things removed from YouTube in my social media experience. The first one was Susan Rice going on Wolf Blitzer and saying, well, of course we're not going to be doing inspections in Iran. Of course. We don't have normal diplomatic relations. That'll be the Chinese and the Russians. They took that one down real quick. And now I saw the video of Louis Farrakhan. I saw him talking about raising an army of 10,000, and I saw him specifically talking about killing the white man, who is the oppressor in this country full of white supremacy. I mean, it was literally the most toxic message, and he had a room full of people on their feet cheering and clapping.
Not sure how that's not inciting a riot
Well, you can't be prosecuted if they can't find it, Beaker. Oh, yeah.
A little slow.
So you have this complete lunatic who has decided first to raise an army of 10,000 people to kill white people. He calls it open season or something like that. And now he has taken the 20th anniversary of what was previously known as the Million Man March and is calling this one Justice or Else.
Yeah, that's not inherently threatening or anything.
No, it sounds super much like a peaceful movement. Super peaceful. Justice or Else.
And we've got megastars like
Will Smith and Jada Pinkett Smith.
Right, donating $150,000
to
the
support
cause.
Justice or Else on October 10th on the Mall in Washington, D.C., where the objective is, and I love this, I do love it, to remove the United States flag from the U.S. Capitol.
Yeah, that's okay. True. Yeah, I can't even go there with that. That's offensive.
Okay,
it's not
terrific.
just offensive, but have we not had enough lunacy with the girl climbing the flagpole in South Carolina when the flag was gonna come down anyway? You know, that earned her a free trip to New York City. So I'm wondering what the prize is going to be, you know, for the person that goes and takes the U.S. flag off the Capitol.
You know what drives me nuts about this when it gets down to brass tacks? If you want to look at incarceration rates and how many more by percentage, who's getting jail time for what offenses, the easiest way to deal with this would be to reform some of those laws, maybe repeal some of those non-violent drug offense laws. But who in politics right now is working on that angle?
Well, I mean, there's actually been a bipartisan coalition through Cato. Rand Paul is a huge supporter. It's actually a pretty decent bipartisan effort that doesn't get a lot of press. And it's actually something Juan Williams called Black Lives Matter out on not supporting. They said if you're going to, you know, scream about change and institutional racism, this is something y'all should be 100% behind.
And that was where I was going to circle back to it. It's not that it's not non-existent, because I know Rand Paul's been talking about that forever, and a bunch of other reforms, as has others. I think didn't Rand Paul get together with Cory Booker once upon a time?
Yeah.
But
politics makes very strange bedfellows.
There's no solutions. It's a threat. You know, do you want the situation to change? Do you want fundamentally to change the system that you're feeling is disadvantageous to you, or do you just want to bitch and threaten?
Well, I think it's become quite evident what the Black Lives Matter movement wants to do, along with Mr. Farrakhan. We're going to keep pounding away at young black men being murdered by cops when we don't ever talk about young black men being murdered by other young black men. And until we do, and until they do, and there's some real conversation about the root causes of those types of problems, I think the movement has no credibility. And with that, we will now take our second break of the show. And when we come back, we absolutely promise Beaker and I are talking about the debates.
No matter what I
look
lead
forward to. And we will be teaching you the debate night drinking game.
K98 Talk is expanding its lineup for 2015. This means we are expanding our advertising base. Whether you're a startup trying to push through to the next level, or an established business trying to supplement your advertising budget, web-based advertising is a solid investment. Thanks to Talk's newest partnership with TuneIn Radio and instant access to our sister station, K98 FM, we give you worldwide access at a reasonable cost. Interested parties should email us at sales@k98fm.com.
Red Nation Rising brings you Town Hall Radio.
From a single tweet to 3 million a month, our community is a force to be reckoned with on social media.
So don't miss our show, Thursdays, 8 p.m. Eastern on K98 Talk.
Our chat room is our co-host, and you ask the question.
Join us and be heard.
So get ready to sound off on Red Nation Rising Radio. No one else is going to do it for you. Okay, just kidding, Stacey.
That was so not what I was expecting.
We got trolled.
Oh, Lou trolled us on the radio, Beaker. How was that?
Nice.
Nice. Well, kicking it off. Tomorrow night is the second of 9 GOP debates, and for some reason, the entire political social media sphere has decided we all need to be wearing a jersey right now, which I absolutely refuse to do. And this debate will, of course...
Are you going shirtless? Is that the...
Look, I am keeping my Pataki flannel pajama pants and my Lindsey Graham tank no matter who wins the election. Do you got it?
Hot.
Do you got it?
That's hot.
It does. A Pataki right across the rear end.
Nice.
It's fitting. Fitting, truly. Anyway, this debate, unlike the last one, is going to be done on CNN. And you know it's going to be absolutely hysterical when the New York Times puts out a headline that says CNN hopes to capture candidates in combative spirit in GOP debate.
I think they're going to switch the format to just a full cage.
A full cage, you think? Are they going to give them protective equipment?
No.
Okay,
Chairs
terrific.
and bats with spikes on them.
Well, and they had to squeeze
Thunderdome.
one more podium on the stage, too, so it's going to be kind of crowded.
Oh, they could do chairs, play the music, and then one of them has to run to the podium to answer.
There you go. Now, here's my thing. As far as CNN media personalities go, I generally find that Jake Tapper isn't a complete tool. Okay? I mean, he's been somewhat critical of Hillary Clinton. He doesn't always take, a progressive approach to things. He's not as balanced or as somebody that I have as much respect for as Ron Fournier, who I really think does try to pull himself out of things sometimes. But I don't consider, Jake Tapper on the same vein as I do Sally Cohn or Rachel Maddow. Okay? So when you first read this article that the New York Times put out, here's a direct quote from Tapper. And it almost sounds like it's going to be okay and something that conservatives might actually like. Because we've felt, at least many of us have felt, that this initial primary season has been somewhat devoid, shall we say, completely devoid of discussions in the media space about actual policy. So Tapper said, my goal is more about let's draw the contrast between the candidates. That would be nice, right? And have them fight it out over these policies, over who has the best approach to Putin, over who has the best approach to taxes, over who believes what over immigration reform, said Jake Tapper, CNN's Washington correspondent, who is moderating Wednesday's debate at the Ronald Reagan Presidential Library. He said, have them lay it all out so voters can see it. I think that's what a lot of us have been asking for. But at the same time, the tone that comes out is a little bit different. Some of the folks who have talked to Tapper and they, of course, refused to be identified, said Jake Tapper is going to do whatever he can to get the candidates to go after each other, said a strategist advising one of the candidates, who declined to be named, delivering what could be seen as a criticism of the network, because God knows we never criticize CNN. If somebody is knocked out, CNN will be happy. In the first debate, the moderators controlled the candidates. In this debate, the candidates will have to moderate themselves. What do you see as the potential risks there, Beak?
Well, some of those candidates, or actually, Rand Paul's already come out and said that he's going after Trump with both barrels. Excuse me. I caught that on a link on Drudge about an hour ago, where he said he deserves both barrels, so he's going to go after Trump hard. And Trump has a pathologic inability to self-censor. So, yeah, this ought to be fun.
Well, I mean, the last, they were citing in the New York Times, and I'm not sure if it was Tapper or Bash that actually cited the exchange between Christie and Rand Paul as an exciting part of the last debate. I thought it made them both look like jackholes. I mean, I agree 100% with everything Rand Paul said, but the tone of the whole thing was almost like two guys getting ready to square off in a schoolyard.
I'm imagining Chris Christie as from Little Rascals attire with suspenders and the big hat and getting his ass kicked on the playground. But that's because I'm. Did I lose you?
Nope, we just went into a little bit of a stop. There's a pickup sometimes on my end of the audio.
I thought I had another mini seizure.
Yeah, another mini seizure. That's okay. I just black out sometimes after.
I have a little drool on my forearm, so I thought, yeah.
Because you've had 4 beers now since we've been on the radio, but so we're going into this debate. I've been teaching conservatives the difference between a plurality and an actual majority, and that the plurality of 15 isn't always a good thing to be, because you might have tapped out at your max. But interesting stuff coming up in the polls right before the debate is it's basically a virtual dead heat now between Ben Carson and Trump if you look at the margins of error.
And part of that, as we had been talking before, is Trump started losing ground when instead of going after some people with some unfavorable numbers like Jeb Bush, he can go after Jeb Bush all day long and no one's going to care. But he decided to go after Carly. He decided to go after Ben, and he started losing big time. So now this ought to be interesting, because I do not think that he can control himself. I think he will continue to be a Boris jackass, because that's what he is, and he will launch those tirades towards Carson and Fiorina, and if he does, he will continue to lose ground. If he can focus fire on people that nobody likes anyway, then he'll probably, I don't think he'll hemorrhage too bad. But
well, and what was interesting to me on the little boxing match between him and Carson's original question was about the only time he specifically referenced Trump was criticizing his immigration policy. He was asked what differentiates him from other candidates, and he said his own faith. Somehow that turned into him criticizing Trump's faith, which if you read the transcript, he actually didn't do. But instead of answering the question about immigration, Trump zeroed in on something else that you can't really... Nobody's going to prove who's more faithful than someone else. You're just not. So, I mean, he turns it into this amorphic argument, which Carson basically said, okay. Then you have his whole comments to the people around the table with Carly Fiorina at Rolling Stone. His defense for those comments is, I'm an entertainer. No kidding. You just should have gone back to The Apprentice. And, she comes back and uses his words in a video that never mentions him. And in my mind and everything I saw in the press, that was a clear win.
That was a beautiful.
She killed him on that one. And, the thing I'm kind of excited about being as she was a CEO and grew up in the corporate world, she's used to guys like him. There's a lot of guys like him in the corporate world. And I think she's going to handle it a lot better than people may think. But because it is anticipated to be such a raucous event, the crowd's going to be a little quieter. It's not going to be a stadium. There's not going to be thousands of people. I think the audience is going to be around 400 from what I've read. And CNN is actually going to ask them to be quiet, so no cheering and booing. So it's not going to be like a sports-tastic kind of thing. But all in the guise of good fun, because we know all eyes are going to be on the center podium, just waiting for something to happen, as much as that depresses and saddens some of us, because while JD say that our shenanigans are cheeky and fun, I find Donald Trump's mostly depressing and sad. But that being said, there is a drinking game available, and it does require two people, preferably two people who can talk to each other during the debate but are not in the same room. First one is with Mr. Trump. Every time he says I or me, you take a shot.
Ooh. Well, someone's going to be dead.
Remember, there's 15 people talking, so he doesn't talk for the whole 2 hours.
It doesn't matter.
The other side, and Beak, you got to pick a side on this one, okay? You got to decide which one you're going to be tomorrow night, because you and I can live tweet the debate.
Oh Lord.
Oh Lord. Beaker is already calling into work on Thursday. Wow. So, the second side of the debate, every time Trump says terrific, stupid. What are the other ones? Terrific, stupid, great, or idiot. You have to take a shot.
How about huge?
No, huge. He doesn't say that as much as you think. When you read his transcripts, it's all good, great, terrific, terrible, idiot, stupid, moron, that kind of stuff. So we're saying terrific, great, idiot, or stupid. You have to take a shot.
I'm breathing deeply, doing cleansing breaths for my liver now in anticipation.
Yeah, well, you need to tell me which one you're going to do, because I'm going to do the opposite.
So we're both going to die.
Yeah, well, no, I'm not going to die. My liver's been in training since my kids turned 13. I don't have little kids at home anymore.
Wow. Ladies first. I'm going to die either way, so I'll take the gallant route, and you can choose.
I'll do the I and me. I got no shame.
Wow, amazing. Thank you. So exciting. Do you know what's missing tonight? Teleprompters. No teleprompters. We want teleprompters. That would be so much easier. We read speech for 45 minutes. Everyone falls asleep. The same old stuff, the same old lies. Oh, God.
Okay, terrific.
What Beaker is reading right now, if none of you have had a chance to take a look at it, is Matt Welch, or Matt Walsh. Matt Welch is with Reason. Matt Walsh is blogger. Matt Walsh actually transcribed the first 3 minutes of Donald's speech last night. Beaker, if you have it in front of you, do you want to take a gander at reading it?
Oh, sure.
Oh, this is great, you guys. I want you to tell me what the point was.
Okay, yeah. I'll read from the top.
There you go.
Wow, amazing. Whoops. Now I just went to one of those little Mexican memes. Wow, amazing. Thank you. So exciting. Do you notice what's missing tonight? Teleprompters. No teleprompters. We don't want teleprompters. That would be so much easier. We read a speech for 45 minutes. Everybody falls asleep listening to the same old stuff, the same old lies. So much easier. So, I have a little debate coming up on Wednesday. I heard let's call them opponents. Can I call them opponents? We're allowed to do that, right? New York was very nice to people last night. You know that, right? Did they hand you that game? They handed it. I said, I'm going to have the friendliest audience. Sit down. I'm going to have the friendliest audience. So I wasn't sure. Was I happy? Was I sad? And, Jerry Jones is a great guy, so he deserves everything he gets, frankly. And, another great guy is Mark Cuban. And I think, he's been talking about maybe doing this himself, and I think he'd do a great job. We don't have the exact same idea. That's okay. But Mark was great, and he called me, literally a few days ago and said, you want to use the arena, which was, by the way, a great arena. And Dirk is a fantastic player and just a wonderful player. And the Mavericks have had a fantastic and just a great team. But he said, you want to use that arena. And I said, Mark, when? He said, how about Monday night? And it's that was 4 days. And you had to take the holiday in between. And he said, hey, really like you in Dallas. I really like it in Texas. Maybe you could get a lot of people because they're coming here. And we thought maybe we could get 1,000 people. We never thought we'd get 1,000 anymore. It's the same thing, We went to Alabama. We started off with 500-person ballroom. Look at these guys, paparazzi. Look at these. We got everybody here. We started off, by the way, with 500-person ballroom. And after about 2 minutes, the hotel called us up begging for mercy. We can't do it. We're inundated. So we went to the convention center, and that was 10,000. And then we were wiped out for an hour. So we went to the stadium. We had 31,000 people, which is, like they say, for early primary, that's probably true. Incoherent, rambling, pointless, self-aggrandizing, name-dropping, utterly devoid of anything resembling a substance of thought. That's Donald Trump.
That is the best serving of word salad he has brought up in the primary to this point.
That was vocal vomit.
What about that said anything other than I know Mark Cuban and Jerry Johnson?
He says great a lot. I'm so screwed.
He says moron and idiot or stupid and idiot a lot, too, when he's talking about policy. We can switch if you want. Or do you want to go back in that whole little shenanigans and count the I's and the me's first?
No, I'll just stick with my pain.
All right. All kinds of pain. And I think what would be really great if we make sure tomorrow we're in Bunny and Jason's chat room while we do this. We'll get Bunny and Jason's whole chat room involved in our lechery. Doesn't that sound like an awesome idea?
That does.
And I know Sam's not listening, so she's going to have a big surprise.
I'll be so happy.
Oh, I'm so happy. I think I actually have to run to the liquor store tomorrow. I'm not sure I have enough.
I don't. There's no way unless I want to start drinking some really nasty old crap that's in the back of the liquor cabinet for 150 years.
Slick says we're crashing ATM show. Don't tell him, Slick. We're going to sneak in. We're going to create alternate Twitter personas, and we're going to be somebody else while we're there. It'll be great.
Oh, I'll just call myself liver damage.
Yeah, there you go. I'll be a Muppet, and you can be some chick. How's that?
There we go.
Awesome.
Yeah, after that many drinks, I'm not going to know the difference anymore anyway.
Exactly. Guys, please, 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 please join me in telling all of the people you talk to and anybody who might be political in your life. We have 9 more debates. This is a marathon, not a sprint. We never had presidential nominee Giuliani or Bachmann. I'm not sure why everybody thinks we have to put a jersey on today. I actually got abused today because I wouldn't say who I'm supporting. I don't know.
How dare you not make up your mind yet?
How dare I not make up my mind? We have one of the most qualified and awesome fields that we could possibly have to go through a slate full of completely ridiculous Democrats. And we have the clown show coming up on CNN.
I think they should announce it like the guys that do the monster trucks.
Seriously?
Monster, monster, monster truck!
Well, but the one effective thing Trump did is chastise Hugh Hewitt, much the way that Obama chastised Major Garrett from CBS. Called out Hugh Hewitt for asking him gotcha questions to see if he understood the basics of the terrorist network over in the Middle East. I kind of think that's important. And so now in that New York Times article, Hewitt was actually sensitized to that. And he was actually someone I was looking forward to asking good questions.
But he said it's not going to affect him. Yeah.
He says he doesn't want to get accused. He doesn't want to get accused of asking gotcha questions.
Does he want to be accused of having testicles?
Well, that's the whole thing. I mean, of all the people to go after, Hugh Hewitt is a very intelligent man. Don't always agree with his politics, but very intelligent man. Takes his role in the media, I think, very, very seriously. And, he actually was taken a little aback at those accusations. To the point where he invited another candidate on, asked them the same questions, and they said, no, those weren't too bad, actually. So, I mean, I'm kind of hoping that he still steps up to the plate, because if anybody should be asking these candidates foreign policy questions, I think it's Hugh Hewitt.
It would be nice, and Fiorina answered those or similar questions
beautifully.
And what she didn't know, she answered appropriately that these are the kind of things that she would need to research more. And even when she doesn't know, she answers it well. She doesn't she doesn't cry.
No,
she doesn't complain.
There's no crying in politics. What I really can't wait for is to see what Trump says about Dana Perino after the fact. That'll be special.
I'm sorry, I was distracted by the chat room, and I was joking that I'm all in for Lindsey Graham.
Well, then we open this segment with the perfect song for you, Beaker.
Yes.
Yes. I know the boys like.
I wonder if he actually has. I can't believe he's still in.
Yeah, well, he's only in because McCain hasn't given him permission to roll out yet. But I'm kind of hoping after debate 2 we see goodbye, na 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 na, hey hey hey, goodbye.
You think John McCain's going to let him out of his gimp suit?
I hope so, but I kind of wish Graham would go away, and Pataki and Gilmore and maybe even Huckabee and Santorum. They're really just noise at this point, and they're starting to annoy me. But we will know more on Thursday, and if you join Game On Thursday, we will have a complete review and play-by-play of Wednesday night's debate. I think I will be okay to broadcast given the drinking game we're doing tomorrow night, and look forward to seeing all you guys back in chat. Beaker, thank you so much for joining me this evening and pinch hitting for JD, and we'll hope he has not been arrested yet. So Slick, stay tuned, and Tina, we may need the bail money. We'll catch you guys on Thursday. Thank you so very much.
For you Occupy freaks with your glitter bombs. Bring it on! Bring on the glitter. Everything has changed. Everything has changed in the last few years. Conservatives used to take it, and we're not taking it anymore.
When our water heater broke down last month, it was a nightmare. It took 5 hours for the plumber to show up, and he charged us a couple of $100 just to come out. And then it cost another $1,800 to put in the new water heater. By the time it was all said and done, I felt like I'd been taken. But what else could I do?
The smartest thing you can do is get a home warranty from American Residential Warranty. Their home warranties pay to repair or replace all your major appliances when they break, and they will break, and at the worst possible time. Call American Residential Warranty right now for free information on home warranties starting at just pennies a day. Don't wait for your refrigerator to stop running or your ceiling fans to stop turning. Call American Residential Warranty right now. Ask how you can save up to 50% on washer and dryer coverage. Just call 1-800-513-6154. That's 1-800-513-6154. Again, 1-800-513-6154. Call now.
Tired of paying outrageous prices for Viagra? Well, we have great news for you. Now you can finally get Viagra at huge discounts. Healthy Man allows you to save up to $500 on Viagra. Why pay U.S. pharmacy prices of $15 per pill or more when you can get Viagra for less than $3 a pill? Call today and get 40 Viagra pills for only $99. This can cost as much as $600 at your local pharmacy. You can't afford not to call us. If you want Viagra at the lowest prices, never pay $15 a pill pharmacy prices again. Get Viagra for less than $3 a pill. Call 1-800-516-7602 today and save up to $500 and get 40 pills for just $99. Healthy Man is fast, easy, and affordable. Operators are waiting at 1-800-516-7602 to take your call right now. Call 1-800-516-7602. That's 1-800-516-7602. Again, 1-800-516-7602.